afternoon. My topic is entitled Criminal Responsibility and Children Who Kill and Neurocriminology Perspective. The objectives of the research were to explore the relationship between brain abnormalities and criminal behavior by explaining reward dominance and prefrontal dysfunction theories, to explore the effects of brain abnormalities on criminal responsibility for children who kill by analyzing the defense of diminished responsibility, and finally to evaluate the implications of neurocriminology research on crime prevention for children with brain abnormalities associated with criminal behavior. The presentation this afternoon focuses mostly on 1 and 2 because the research is a work in progress. Definition of key terms. Brain abnormalities refers both to the structural and functional modifications of the brain that are inherited or acquired. Children or humans under 18 years old. I kept the definition in keeping with the Rights of Child Convention and our recently updated Juvenile Justice Act 2018. Now, in Indiana, Doli Inca Pax, which means that you could not be responsible for a crime because you could not form the element, was 10 years old. With the new legislation, that has changed to 14 years old. So in other words, if you're under 14 and you commit murder, you have welfare and other systems, you don't go to jail. If you're over 14, you're treated just like an adult. Only thing, sentences may vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction because some jurisdictions still retain the death penalty for juveniles, even though that will violate international human rights law. But laws are based on jurisdictions. We don't have it because we're signatory to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which says we should not mete out the death penalty to kids, to children. Neurocriminology is a field that uses principles and techniques from neuroscience to understand, predict, and prevent criminal behavior. Neurocriminology comes under the biosocial school of criminology, which challenges mainstream criminology, which postulated criminal behavior is only as a result of social factors. But the biosocial school of criminology says that criminal behavior is both comes from biological and environmental factors. The objective, my aim of doing this research was to highlight that crimes have biological roots, and when we're formulating laws and policies, we should take these into consideration. Brain abnormalities and criminal behavior. Now, our thoughts or emotions or behavior are a result of communication between neurons, which are facilitated by neurotransmitters. The brain has many neurotransmitters, but criminologists are mostly concerned with dopamine, which relates to reward and pleasure, and serotonin, which relates to punishment. At birth, we're hardwired with primitive functions that in our brain that has to do with breathing, heart rate, and those things. But postnatally, we download environmental software that organizes the brain. In the first formative years, that's when the brain develops an explosive rate. So the events that we experience as a child, these are the events that form our personality and takes us into adolescence and adulthood. Now the brain has a system that whatever the events that you are stimulating more, that is the one you retain, and that is the one that organizes your brain. Therefore, children that suffer things like neglect, use of chronic stress, messes with their mental functioning because these are negative events, and that is how the brain is formed. And these children sometimes grow up to have antisocial personality disorder, psychosis, and these things have been found to be correlated with criminal behavior. So it's imperative in the early years that we have good bonding, good attachment, and positive experience for kids. So I'm looking at two main theories this afternoon: the behavioral activating system and the behavioral inhibiting system. Now, and the prefrontal cortex dysfunction theory. There are other theories such as the dysfunction of the amygdala limbic system dysfunction that all speaks to brain abnormalities, but I've chosen these because of temporal limitation and prefrontal cortex being a very popular one. Now, psychopathy and criminal behavior behavior are a consequence of the regulation between two opposing systems in the brain, the behavioral activating system and the behavioral inhibiting system, BAS. BAS is associated with the neurotransmitter dopamine and areas in the brain linked to pleasure. BIS is associated with serotonin and areas in the brain responsible for memory. BAS is vulnerable to reward, while BIS is vulnerable to threats of punishment. Criminals have been found to have dominant BAS, which results in them being oversensitive to reward signals and relatively insensitive to punishment. Now, this kind of research only gained momentum in the last 2 decades because before we did not have the technology like MRI, fMRI to measure these brain activities and so as the technology became available in advance, you actually now could pattern brain abnormalities. So we're going to look at the study by Gertz and his colleagues, and they looked at psychopathic criminals, psychopaths that were not criminals, and non-criminals. I'm not going to focus on the non-criminals because the brain abnormality comes with the comparison of the fMRIs of the psychopathic criminals and the psychopathic non-criminals. Now, psychopathy is what the Americans call antisocial personality disorder, but psychopathy is British. So that is aggressiveness, impulsiveness, and these are the things that are correlated with criminal behavior. Now, he and his colleagues, the sample comprised psychopathic criminals and psychopathic non-criminals. They used the psychopathy personality index so they could score them and know, well, you know, you fall in the category of being labeled a psychopath. So we had a set that committed crimes and a set that did not commit crimes. So we're interested to know why that, you know, people had similar scorings on this test, but yet some went on to commit crimes and some did not. What they found using fMRI technology, they administered a task to induce reward, and they found that with the psychopathic criminals, they had enhanced communication in the reward signaling part of the brain. In other words, they were suffering from abnormality of mental functioning. Now, studies like this help us to understand why you have two kids who grew up in comparable household, chronic stress, poverty, abuse, neglect. One turns out to be a notorious criminal, and the other just regular, getting through with life. So that difference in the functioning of the brain gives us insight into criminal behavior. Now there's the prefrontal dysfunction theory. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for making moral judgments, analyzing, synthesizing, planning, and controlling emotions. It's a very important part of our brain. It carries out the executive functions of the brain. It is concerned with pro-social behavior. So that is why when you have this function, you end up with antisocial behavior. So we're going to look at two studies and you're going to see what I mean. The limitation of these two studies, though, they were cross-sectional and so they can't, generalization is challenged. But you know the technology is fairly new, so then longitudinal studies take time, so you have time. So they form the basis for further research as you have time to execute the longitudinal studies. Now you have Kaufman, Steinberg, and Precarium. They wanted to deliberate between two positions, and they designed a test to do so. Now, the two positions are self-control is the only personal characteristic associated with criminal behavior. That is mainstream criminology that will say quality self-control make you know, environmental factors influence self-control, and it says what made you commit these crimes. And then you have the next perspective, which is more in keeping with biosocial school. Although self-control is imperative, neuropsychological factors are associated with criminal behavior. They have two sets of juveniles, serious juvenile offenders and regular high school kids. So the method that they used CANTAB, Cambridge Neuropsychological Test Automated Batteries. So it's that computer there where you have a series of tests and you give them different functions, and different functions relate to different different activation of the prefrontal cortex, different cognitive functions. So what they found was that the serious juvenile offenders exhibited poor performance on tasks that caused the activation of the cognitive functions mediated by the prefrontal cortex. As I said, the limitation of the study was cross-sectional, but now it forms the basis now that you can go out and do longitudinal studies. And another limitation was, while they determined correlation, causation is still undetermined. But the study helps you to see that this function in the prefrontal cortex results in criminal behavior, or is at least associated. Then we had the next study by Chen and his colleagues, and they investigated whether there were any variations in the functioning of the brains of male violent offenders. These are juvenile offenders. I used the juvenile studies in keeping with the team, which indicated delayed brain maturity to be used as a biomarker of violence. They used regional homogeneity method, and they assessed this by the resting state of the fRMIs. So what they found that in the juvenile offenders, they had lower regional homogeneity scores, and this thing is regulated by the medial prefrontal cortex. So in other words, using that, they were able to prove that because of dysfunction in the prefrontal cortex, you had delayed brain maturity, which is associated with criminal behavior. Alright, so it's common, people of lower intelligence usually commit crimes, but now we're understanding biological reasons why, how you can have lower intelligence. Is it just opportunities, or is it something that you're born with, or because of trauma, or you get hit on the head or something? Because these structural and functional abnormalities, they could be congenial or due to experiences. The limitations of the study, again, it was cross-sectional and it did not establish causation, but it sets the foundation. So that's the first piece of my presentation, to establish a link between brain abnormalities and criminal behavior. The next part of my presentation is legally based. So now that we understand that brain abnormalities can influence criminal behavior, how is responsibility to be judged? So I use several examine the defense of diminished responsibility because it deals with abnormality of mental functioning to reduce the crime of murder to manslaughter. Now, what you get sentenced is based on the jurisdiction you're in. If they have abolished the death penalty for a kid, for juveniles, if they have not, if you're tried as an adult, and for what crimes you're tried as an adult for. So your sentencing will ultimately determine the jurisdiction you're in. So the defense of diminished responsibility is attributed to the common law of Scotland, and you have Lord Diaz, who's said to be very instrumental in that, because during that 19th century, he talked about murder with extenuating circumstances, weak or diseased state of mind, not amounting to insanity. Now the defense of insanity totally absolves you from the crime, where diminished responsibility reduces the sentence from murder to manslaughter. The test for diminished responsibility in Scotland was, however, not done by was not posted by Lord Diaz, was Lord Alness, when he said, there must be an aberration, meaning abnormality. There must be aberration, abnormality, or weakness of mind, that there must be some form of mental unsoundness, that there must be a state of mind which is bordering on, though not amounting to insanity, that there must be a mind so affected that responsibility is diminished from full responsibility to partial responsibility. That definition was, the concept was later acknowledged in English law. Now, some jurisdictions have legislation, some jurisdictions have cases. The concept was developed by case law. I'm choosing to use a jurisdiction with legislation because I want to identify the features and discuss the features. I've chosen the jurisdiction of the UK because obviously their laws always influence ours, and more importantly, I chose the UK because they have updated their definition in keeping with current neuropsychological and neuropsychiatric findings. So now I'm going to read through that definition for you. I'm just going to go to the features. The features, you have an abnormality of mental functioning. Now, under the old law in the UK, in which a lot of jurisdiction will still refer to, is abnormality of mind. But abnormality of mind was never a psychiatric concept, so it's abnormality of mental functioning. We have recognized medical condition, substantial impairments of D's ability to understand the nature of his conduct, form rational judgment, exercise self-control. Abnormality of mental functioning is a significant contributory factor for D's conduct. The old law said abnormality of mind. The defendant must be suffering from an abnormality of mind. The Reformation says abnormality of mental functioning, which is in keeping with current neuropsychological and neuropsychiatric knowledge. However, even though it was modernized to reflect knowledge, the concept still remains, the applicability of the concept is still the same, because mental functioning now would be abnormal, where it's so different from that of an ordinary man that the reasonable man would term it abnormal. Now, abnormality of mind came about in the case of the Queen against Byrne. Byrne was a sexual psychopath who had strangled and mutilated a young woman. He claimed that he was suffering from perverted sexual violent desires, which created irresistible impulse. He was originally convicted of murder, and he appealed successfully because they didn't allow him the defense of diminished responsibility. Chief Justice Parker at that appellate level said abnormality of mind meant a state of mind so different from that of ordinary human beings that a reasonable man would term it abnormal. So when they changed the law and they used the correct psychological and psychiatric term, abnormality of mental functioning, it's still, the laws is still applicable because it's that which the normal man would view as abnormal. Now, there was also a change arising from a condition of arrested or retarded development of mind or any inherent causes or induced by disease or injury. These also are not psychiatric terms. So, they replace that with recognized medical condition. So, on the recognized medical condition, the international classificatory systems of diseases will be applicable. So, you have things like depression, bipolar disease, schizophrenia, forms of psychosis, intellectual disabilities, development disabilities coming under those. The old cases are still applicable because even though they didn't use the current wording, they were based on medical evidence, and now the classificatory systems are so wide that you could fit a lot of psychoses onto them. So let's look at the old cases and I'll show you how they're still applicable. Now, in Miller and Vinegar, they discuss jealousy. Now, jealousy is our emotion alone, is not, it doesn't result in diminished responsibility, but there is a disease called psychopathic jealousy, and that will fall out of that. Then you have in Hobson and Whaler battered women syndrome, which is acknowledged because of domestic violence legislation and other things. Battered women syndromes come on as a subcategory of PTSD, which is an internationally recognized disease. Epilepsy is a recognized disease. It's been found to have abnormality of brain function. Chronic depression is recognized. All these things cause your brain to operate in a different way. Alcohol dependency syndrome is recognized, but what the law made clear in doubt that if it's voluntary intoxication, it will not form a defense to diminish responsibility. So in doubt, he claimed that, well, the law changed and his voluntary intoxication should give him a defense because he had some alcohol-related issue, and the court says, no, it is a practice that the intoxication must be involuntary. Now there is a next requirement: substantial impairment of the defendant's ability to understand the nature of his conduct, form rational judgment, and exercise self-control. Now, under the old law, they spoke about mental responsibility, but this was heavily criticized because it's legally intelligible. We don't know what it means. What law should have been referring to is mental capacity. It's not a person's mental responsibility that diminishes the charge, because you don't have the guilty mind for murder. It's their mental capacity. So the new legislation sought to correct that and spoke about the impairment of the defendant's ability. Now the new legislation was a legislative adaptation of what Chief Justice Parker had said in the Queen against Bird, that mental responsibility must be wide enough to cover the mind's activities in all its aspects, not only the perception of physical acts and matters, and the ability to form rational judgment as to whether an act is right or wrong, but also the ability to exercise willpower to control his physical acts in accordance with rational judgment. The law also speaks about abnormality of mental functioning being a significant contributory factor for this conduct. Now that update was in relation to criticism that law never clearly stated that the abnormality of mind, as it was in those days, is what caused him to kill. So in the new legislation, they sought to make that clear, that there must be that causation link between the mental functioning, the abnormality of mental functioning, and the killing, to reduce the sentence from murder to manslaughter. The part that I'm working on right now is crime prevention. So I'm looking at how this research in neurocriminology could help children born with these predispositions, or because of the environment they would have lived in would have caused stress on the brain, caused these behaviors, or because of some traumatic event, injury, or so. So I'm working on that to see how children with these predispositions to abnormal brain functioning can be helped via early intervention, and how those that have been already convicted could be helped through rehabilitation. Now, Professor Evelina says, biology is not destiny. We can change the biological roots of crime and violence. There is no question about it. So what do? They reprogram the brain through neuropsychological and neuropsychiatric techniques. So that is the part I'm working on, crime prevention. All right, so my concluding remarks. There is irrefutable scientific evidence facilitated through the advancements in technology that proves that there is an association between brain abnormalities and criminal behavior. These findings are invaluable to our understanding of criminal behavior and contravenes traditional criminological theories that postulated that criminal behavior is autonomously caused by social or environmental factors. These new findings can be instrumental to the modernization of laws and the formulation of criminal justice policies, such as those related to early intervention and rehabilitation. Now I have to go and teach, so let me take questions. No. All right, thank you.
Can we give Ms. Singh a bigger hand? Mental health issues are something we all need to be conscious of. If you have a mind, right? We all have a mind. And given that, given the state of our society, which is something that is very significant, but we haven't actually paid that much interest. So I think our work is very crucial, and it's also very interesting. And I think it's also the point to take the questions, because my mind is buzzing right now. I think we all have a lot of questions. So let us take some questions from the floor, if anyone has. Anybody? Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. Joshua Ramsey, I'm a fourth year economics student. I have a question today diminished responsibility. How would that apply locally, since we're seeing quite a spike in issues of domestic violence and all these other issues? There was a recent case with a GDF captain claiming insanity plea, and that was thrown out, but he complained of chronic depression for a couple of years. How is that being seen to the justice system in Guyana?
All right, let me take the first part of your question. Neurocriminology in Guyana. Neurocriminology is not here because we don't have the tech. We do MRIs and these things, but they're more concerned when you have medical history going to the hospital. But you have to get people trained in neurocriminology, neuropsychiatry, and neuropsychology. So we need to have the specialists. We have proper forensic labs to carry out these things. So we don't have those things right now. So my research is just to create awareness, because whether we realize it or not, this is where the world is going to. So any criminologist, you will have to know it. Whether your jurisdiction has it or not, you have to know it. So the guy would obviously claim insanity first, because insanity absolves you fully. You don't have any jail time, which diminishes responsibility. You still have jail time because it reduces the sentence from murder to manslaughter. How is it going here? I checked how it's going here, and because we don't have these things electronic, I had to pick them up from secondary as opposed to primary sources. It is being pleaded, but we are not at that stage to incorporate this new knowledge. On the issue of domestic violence, we have legislation, so we're covered for women that are in these situations.
Hi, good day. Max, economics major third year. Out of curiosity, when these laws do pass, how will it affect previous cases in which the insanity plea was attempted but failed? Will those persons be allowed to get a second chance, that is, a reevaluation and such?
All right, so this is not insanity. This diminished responsibility arose because of cases that fell short of insanity, right? And insanity is governed by the McNaughton rules, which is very rigid. You have to fulfill all those requirements. And because you had cases where you could see clearly something was wrong mentally, but you couldn't fulfill the requirements of insanity to absolve you from the crime, that's how the defense of diminished responsibility, it was developed. So, right now we use a common law perspective, which would just still talk about abnormality of mind and one, because we don't have the new legislation. But if we decide to go that route, we can continue to let it develop, let the common law develop, or if we decide to go the route of legislation, I don't see us having too much problems, because what the legislation did was just clarify the law, put it in more medical terms.
Okay, so a bunch of cases will not end up being reopened then?
No.